oil sector advocates putting in place and rigorously implementing preventive and corrective measures to crude oil theft.
A synergy amongst stakeholders, ensuring pipeline integrity, equipping the security agencies, as well as establishing courts and stiff penalties for those found guilty, have also been suggested as part of the measures to help keep the issue of oil theft off our national discourse.
You're right, Kingsley, and all we have said so far is a brief summary of the content of the first part of our discussion, which aired on Monday on dealing with crude oil theft in Nigeria.
Well, Claire, as you very well know, that was the first part that would serve as a point for a topic of this nature that has been raging for quite a while. Now, the significance of the oil and gas industry to the economy of Nigeria cannot be overemphasized. And the reason for us getting to the second part of the discourse this morning is because Nigeria loses a great deal from crude oil theft.
Quite correct, Kingsley, quite correct, and the figures are so alarming. I am Claire Delavu Abdulrazak. We thank you once again for joining us on the program. It's Good Morning Nigeria Live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority.
I'm Kingsley Sadola, also jointly welcoming you to this edition. We are here at the Abuja headquarters studios of the Nigerian Television Authority.
Incidentally, Kingsley, we are having our energy correspondent take the news for us this morning.
That's right.
Lydia Sampson has the news. Lydia, good morning.
Thank you, Kingsley and Claire. Indeed, the issue of oil theft is a topic that we must keep on the front burner until we get rid of it. And here's the news. The Federal Ministry of Aviation has been ordered to commence the process of securing the management of the nation's airspace over the oil-rich Gulf of Guinea. State House correspondent Adam Musambi reports that President Muhammadu Buhari, who gave the order when the officials of the ministry briefed him in the State House, also gave directives on the NYC scheme after receiving briefing from officials of the Ministry of Youth Development.
The management of the Nigerian airspace over the Gulf of Guinea. There is a move on the ground by Togo and the Republic of Benin to take over the management of their own airspace from Ghana. He directed that the NYC should continue as it is, because initially we were worried with the growing number of the corps members over the years. By the year 2020, the projection is that we are going to have 300,000 these corps to be graduated by the NYC. And we are worried and concerned with the dwindling resources whether NYC will be able to cater for this growing number of youth. But he assured us that his administration is poised to continue with the NYC because of its great ideals.
President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed concern over the enormous debt profile of Nigeria's aviation sector and promised to redress the situation in view of its security and safety implications as well as the image of the country. In a statement signed by presidential spokesperson Femi Adesina, President Buhari said if Nigeria cannot maintain airport infrastructure as gateway to the nation, it will reflect badly on the country. It directed the counterpart funding for the upgrading of the international airports in Lagos, Abuja, Kano, Port Harcourt and Enugu should be captured in the 2015 budget. 5 new terminals under construction at the airport, when completed, could cater for 62 million passengers annually. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved several actions to fast-track the long-delayed implementation of the United Nations Environmental Programme report on the environmental restoration of Ogoni land. The approval by President Buhari was based on recommendations made to him by the Executive Director of UNEP, UNEP Special Representative for Ogoni land, the Permanent Secretaries of the Federal Ministry of Environment and Petroleum Resources, and other stakeholders. The President further approved the Hydrocarbon Pollution Restoration Project Governing Council. The Council is composed of representatives of the Ministries of Petroleum Resources, Environment and Imparted States, oil companies, and the NNPC. Others are Ogoni Land and the United Nations System. The Secretariat will be headed by a project manager. Also approved is the compilation of the Board of Trustees for HYPRED project, which representatives of the federal government, NNPC and international oil companies, Ogoni Land, as well as the United Nations System, following a meeting held on the directive of President Buhari. It was also agreed that a contribution deposit of 10 million United States dollars will be made by stakeholders within 30 days of the appointment of members of the Board of Trustees. The presidency was described as baseless, unfounded and mischievous speculation by a national daily that 2.2 billion naira was spent on the trip by President Buhari to the United States. A statement from the senior special assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Galbashir, says nothing near 10% of the speculated figure was spent on the trip, owing to the free accommodation provided by the host, as well as reduced allowances paid to the President's personal staff. The statement says, contrary to the claim by the newspaper, Nigeria achieved tremendously from the President's trip to the United States. The presidency enumerated the proposed $2.1 billion from the World Bank for the redevelopment of the Northeast, $5 billion from United States investors in health, and other $5 billion investment in the power sector as some of the immediate benefits of the trip. The widely acknowledged entrepreneurship spirit of Nigeria is increasingly becoming manifest on the African continent. State House correspondent Jude Olufade reports from Zambia that the latest is the establishment of a cement and coal-fired plant in Zambia by Nigeria's Aliko Dangote. Both plants have been inaugurated by Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo.
This is what Africa has been aiming for. Africa investing in Africa for Africans. It's a good example of what we should have done at independence. But now, I think we're waking up.
This choice of leadership is no longer debatable. The rule of law, protection of the right to private property, and respect for the sovereignty of contract are constitutional pillars of liberal democracy that today guarantee an environment where commerce, industry, agricultural practice, and thrive.
I will continue to invest billions of dollars in African continent to make sure that Africa is out of poverty.
Back home, Nigeria's Senate has identified more than 50 federal roads across the country that they describe as near collapse and called on the federal government to undertake their immediate rehabilitation. National Assembly correspondent Abdullahi Garba Kudu reports that the motion was moved by Senator Dino Malari, representing Kogi West. The Senate is also resolved to invite the Central Bank of Nigeria governor to explain the continued depreciation of the naira and its implications. The Senate President Bukola Saraki has given an assurance that the Senate will do its best to ensure the implementation of the e-Parliament technology for the success of the Assembly. National Assembly correspondent Kenneth Nanim reports that the subject will inaugurate in the Senate Committee on Rules and Business.
And making our own research to see and to ensure that we have the best hands in the Rules and Business Committee. In the evolution of the whole mandate, we will be innovative, we will be creative, and we will be creative. We will discharge our functions diligently, passionately, and resolutely.
The House of Representatives has resolved to resume investigation into the tax evasion by Stallion Group. It has noted that the multinational company is alleged to have evaded the payment of 15 billion naira tax to the federal government. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Info reports that this is part of resolution of the House in Wednesday's plenary.
Down the warehouses of Stallion Group over non-payment of tax duty. The presidency ordered the custom authority to reopen them pending the resolution of the matter. I see this motion more like a duplication of the effort that has already been taken.
I think it is only appropriate, since we're calling for investigation, to look into the matter again. And if the report affirms that custom has taken steps to recover these funds and they're indeed recovering it, then fantastic.
A forum to articulate strategies and the most efficient ways of exploring opportunities in the solid mineral sector has been held in Abuja. Shane Wimbi reports that the forum also tends to review the roadmap for solid mineral development in Nigeria.
Agricultural and solid mineral resources that can be leveraged to propel the country's economic development. The outcome of the brainstorming of this event will
provide inputs to be examined by the government in evolving strategies and innovations that will lead to the desired revival of the solid mineral sector.
Nigeria and China are exploring ways of strengthening existing bilateral relations in the media industry. Anthony Ferguson reports that this is part of discussions between a Chinese delegation and the Federal Ministry of Information.
To the development of the media and the broadcasting industry. And we are here to learn about new regulations, new policies that the Nigerian government
over the years, the bilateral relationships between the two countries have been good, and I think it's even getting better. The Federal Ministry of Information also, with its parastatals, have worked very well with the Chinese government over the years.
The Inspector General of Police, Suleiman Arasi, has warned that an attack on any police station is a criminal offense punishable under the law. The IGP gave the warning following reported increase of attacks and failed arson attempts on some police stations and formations. A statement by the first Public Relations Officer and Commissioner of Police, Emmanuel Ojukwu, says the IGP has directed all field commanders to secure their formations with reasonable front, and he urged the public therefore to explore civilized channels of conveying their grievances. And that's the news this morning. We come to Kingsley and Claire, who are standing by for the continuation of Good Morning Nigeria.
Lydia, I refuse to be drawn into that rhetoric of standing by or sitting up. Anyway, thank you for the news this morning, Lydia. And now coming up on the business news, a recent report by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, says that the rate of financial penetration in Nigeria is low compared with her peers. And New Zealand's jobless rate rises as the number of new jobs created fails to keep pace with an expanding working population that is driven by record migration. Now, details of these and more stories on our business package, and Chim Ugumiri has it.
Alright, let's talk business now. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has said that the rate of financial penetration in Nigeria was still low compared with our peers. The multilateral institution noted that recent surveys indicated that although Nigeria's financial penetration rate was improving, the number remains about a third of the adult population. The IMF stated these in its latest report on Nigeria titled Household Financial Access and Risk Sharing in Nigeria. It stated that a large fraction of the country's population save but not necessarily in banks. According to the report, about 65% of adult population saves in Nigeria. This, it's noted, was much higher than the world's average of 36% and above peers, 40% for Kenya, 37% for Ghana, 31% for South Africa. It quoted a World Bank Index survey for Nigeria to have also shown that about 30% of adult population had an account in the formal banking system. In 2011, this coverage was low compared to 50% for the world average, 54% in South Africa, 42% for Kenya, and only a little above the average of 24% for developing countries in Sub-Saharan Africa. The report also pointed out that poverty in Nigeria remains high, noting that despite oil and consumption-led growth, the country trails its SSA peers in reducing poverty. Meanwhile, economic watchers have been commenting on the IMF report on financial penetration in Nigeria. An economic analyst, Ogbonna Okuku, in an interview with NTA Business News, called for increased enlightenment campaign and the need for savings. He also pointed out that having access to semi-formal financial institutions was more effective in smoothing negative shocks in the southern part of the country than in the north.
We have to go beyond knowledge-driven economy to a vision-driven economy. What do I mean by that? See, we can only stay at moving from the known to the unknown. In the sense that I say Africans should not even bother trying to make cell phones, but rather stay at making getting the solid mineral that exists that you need to make cell phones. So those are the things we should focus on. As we focus on those things, you begin to see more liquidity spreading across board. Investments will be targeted at those small businesses that exist or that you're going to create. So our enterprise development strategy has to move to what is supposed to be, which is being able to have the people at the middle end of the ladder to have something to do, or create those from the lower end, bringing them up to the middle class.
Finally, on the business party this morning, New Zealand's jobless rate has risen as the number of new jobs created fails to keep pace with an expanding working population driven by record migration. According to statistics, New Zealand's household labor force survey says the employment rate rose to a seasonally adjusted 5.9% in the 3 months ended June 30 from 5.8% in the March quarter. Employment grew 0.3% in the quarter, falling short of expectations for 0.5% jobs growth in a Reuters poll of economists and lagging behind the 0.7% expansion of the working age population for the first time since the September 2012 quarter. The labor cost index also released on Wednesday showed private sector ordinary time wage rates rose 0.5% in the quarter, accelerating from a 0.3% pace in March. And that's the party of the business news for now. Thanks for watching.
Alright, thank you very much there for the business package. And next for us now is a review of the headlines in today's newspapers.
Right, our newspaper reviewer needs no introduction, but do permit me to welcome him to today's edition. Mr. Toby.
Thank you, Claire. Good morning, Nigeria.
Alright, let's begin our review this morning with the Nigerian pilot. Nigerian pilot has below its name flag. Of course, Claire, by the way, we should indicate that of the front pages that we have in the papers today carry the story of the shake-up the executive in the top echelons of the NNPC. But just below the name flag of Nigerian pilot, Buhari approves 2.1 billion naira for Ogoniland cleanup. It is on page 6. Obasanjo angry over leakage of tourist secret visit, also on page 6. Now sacked. That is the kicker for the lead story for the Nigerian pilots. NNPC GEDs, that's Group Executive Directors, PPMC MD top management. That's sacked now. That's NNPC Group Executive Directors as well as the MD of PPMC and other top management. Kachuku, that's the new Group Managing Director, appoints replacements. And heads of subsidiaries G3. Details of the story can be found on page 4. Also on page 4, Naira falls. Senate summons CBN Governor and rejects return of toll gates. At the foot of the front page, there are the following headlines. IGP Arase orders nationwide census of police force, and FARM gives owners deadlines to remove abandoned aircraft. An aircraft that doesn't take an S. NEC to sanction discos for rejecting electricity allocations. And police parade 40 Zik Varsity and Oko police students for courtesan. And insurance companies withhold 7 billion naira pension fund. Details of that on page 42. Clear.
Yes, Kingsley, like you rightly said, all the papers carried the story on the NNPC, and indeed the NNPC has been in the news for a while now. I'll just take a random mention of the headlines as captured by the different papers. The Guardian says, in major restructuring, Buhari swings NNPC's directorates, and it comes with 2 riders, sacks 8 group executive directors, GMD removes PPMC's managing director. That's how the Guardian captions its own version of that story. New Telegraph has another caption, shake up in NNPC. 8 group executive directors fired. Directorates pruned from 8 to 4. That's the caption from New Telegraph. And Daily Trust, it is 8 NNPC directors fired. Directorates reduced from 9 to 4. While for the Daily Sun, it's tsunami, it reads NNPC. 8 group executive directors flushed out. Tsunami reads NNPC. 8 group executive directors flushed out. And well, these are some of the varying adjectives used to describe what has happened in the NNPC. Some say it's a sack, it's a tsunami, it's a shake-up, and of course giving us the number of those affected. But again, back to the Guardian, some of the trending stories on the front page. Just below just trending at the bottom of the front page of Guardian, why banks reject foreign currency deposits. Why banks reject foreign currency deposits. Naira sustained sliding profile. Operators react. Mrs. Ijikaka deny owing FCMB. Others. While senators summon CBN over economy. Now there is a picture that you cannot escape your eyes. It's right there on the front page. Former Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Kenneth Minima with wife Felly during his pulling out in Abuja yesterday. Now on the right column there are quite a number of stories that have made the front page there. Beginning from top, debris found in Reunion Island confirmed yesterday as wing of missing Malaysian flight MH370, and it's also there. Now, Ondo Governor, former Deputy Governor trade words over alleged mismanagement, and we also have the Group Lords EFCC over Goody Ebro seek action from NSE and SEC, which is set, and Only of Israel's family removes personal items from palace, and finally Osho Assembly dismisses petition by judge against Arabeshala. That's the Guardian.
Alright, the Nation newspaper is next for us. Nation newspaper has a number of headlines. Minima, that's the former Chief of Army Staff. Elite used Boko Haram, details of that on page 4. Buhari orders ministry to work on new national carrier. That of course is the Ministry of Aviation. How corruption and leadership hamper anti-drug war. NEMA urges northern states to prepare for drought. And Zenith Bank malls half-year audited financial reporting. Also there on the front page is the story of the removal of group executive directors of the NNPC, and directorates cut to 4 from 8. That's the write-up to that headline, which is the second verse story on the front page of the Nation. Congress missing as boat capsizes, and also there on the front page is the lead story actually of the Nation newspaper, double-decker headline, EFCC identifies owner of $2.1 million seized cash. The writer says ex-federal agency chief may be declared wanted. Now, this is the first paragraph of the story, in paraphrase, by the way. The EFCC said yesterday that it had traced about $2.1 million seized at Murtala Muhammad Airport to a former executive secretary of a federal parastatal. Now, you can see there the front page photograph, the stack of the cash, $100 million, in $100 bills, $2.1 million. IGP, that's the other headline as a kicker, rules forgery beyond Senate. And also at the foot of the front page, MRS not owing FCMB 6.2 billion naira and alleged crimes. Kwara Police suspends students. Details of that story can be found on page 57. Claire.
Okay, New Telegraph, I have read the major story on the front page earlier on, so I just take other accompanying stories on the front page. Just taking it from the above the masthead. Senate summons CBN over Naira depreciation, that's story on page 3. And MTN worried over Nigerian operations, loses high-end users to Tisanet and Airtel. And then trending just right there in the middle, Buhari orders return of national carrier, and Tambua becomes live venture. Running Stallion Group over 17 billion naira tax evasion. This story you can find on pages 3 and 6. And finally, Oni's family finally moves out of palace. monarch's body moved to shrine for traditional embalmment. And just a quick one from the inside page on page 9. Ex-NHIS boss wanted over $2.1 million money laundering. Ex-NHIS boss wanted over $2.1 million money laundering. And other also interesting stories coming up right in the middle of that first page.
Well, Clara, I think the Leadership newspaper, but the front page of the Leadership also reports on the sacking of 8 NNPC executive directors. Leadership denounces fake Hausa Facebook account. Details of that on page 4. But the news story says CDS, that is the Chief of Defense Staff, and service chiefs shown minimum school out. And we have at the front page there, PMB, that's President Buhari, orders return of national carrier and OK straight up of Ogoniland. Let's go very quickly to the inside page, one of the inside pages of the Leadership newspaper. Page 7. Boko Haram, Cameroon repatriates 12,000 Nigerians. That's according to NEMA. And Boko Haram, Danjuma Committee releases 140 million naira to 7 Northeast hospitals. And also there, PDP crisis. NWC, that's the working committee, and workers differ over terms for truce. Right.
Okay, Daily Trust has some working picture stories there. It's excerpts from Air-Refi's demolition exercise in Zaria, and it's captioned Air-Refi begins demolition of houses in Zaria. You can see a number of the activities right there on the front page. Now, at the bottom, tribal religious sentiments fuel Boko Haram crisis. This is coming from Minima. You can find the details of these on page 3. But a quick one, Kingsley and Barrow, is a story on page 12, and it has to do with the NYSC. It is banning of pregnant women from NYSC discriminatory. Banning of pregnant women from NYSC discriminatory. I thought I should point that out. Kingsley, you have another case?
Well, I think I'm done.
Okay, finally I have a Daily Sun. Just to mention a few of the stories enjoying the front page. Bank debt scandal. Debtors bribe bankers to remove names from list, and we're not indebted to FCMB as claimed MRS. Now, Senate summons CBN Governor and DSS DG. You can find these stories on pages 3 and 4. And Buhari orders quick action on new national carrier, while flood destroys 148 houses in Sokoto. Bayo.
Thank you, Claire. Well, the story about what is happening in the NMCC dominates the story. As sensational as it may appear, some would sack, some would fire. The statement by the group Public Affairs GM actually said that the federal government has approved the retirement of 8 GEDs, which meant that there was a recommendation put forward which was approved. In fact, there's also conflicting reports. Some say that no new GEDs have been named, and some say replacements have already been made. But however, the noteworthy thing is that there were 8 GEDs that were retired now, but henceforth there will be 4 new GEDs, which means that the process of slimming down the top hierarchy of the NNPC has begun.
And Bayo, semantically there is a world of difference between retirement and sacking and dismissal.
It's just the sentiment of the moment, but do that as we are duty is to put across the facts and lead our viewers to read the judge. Talking about the NYC that we talked about, the idea and objective of the NYC is to promote national unity and integration, and the President Muhammad Buhari says that is still relevant for national development. The President said, whenever I go home to Daura, I look out for core members from Lagos, Aba, and other places. I am always thrilled to learn that, except for the NYC, some of them have never left their state of origin. You may recall that NYC started in 1974 with an enrollment of 2,364 corpers. As of 2014, you had 229,016 registered for NYC. The projection is that by the year 2020, you may have about 300,000 NYC members. I recall in Australia, the time I joined the NYC, Our stipends there, monthly allowance, used to be 100 naira a month. When we came in, it was increased to 180 naira, and we were so happy. Today, I hear the allowance is 19,800.
But there is a strong view of perception that the NYSC should be indeed strengthened so that it becomes part of the formal response mechanism to preventing counter violence, conflict and insurgency that we're talking about.
In fact, for a long time, they had arguments that the NYSC should have part of its training with arms bearing so that can help be part of national reserve. Because these are people that are highly educated, and when the emergency comes in the future, they can be recalled as opposed in some other countries. So in countries like Israel and others, there is a compulsion for you to serve 1 year in the nation bearing arms, and that helps a repertoire of personnel that can before that.
What are the views about the banning of pregnant co-members from service national?
Well, it's like you said, certainly is discriminatory, and I think the women group will pick up onto that. There are also suggestions that it should be made, NYC should be made voluntary. Again, there are options, but let's see what the outcome will be. Meanwhile, the war against insurgent Boko Haram has lingered so long because it was used as an effective tool to advance political, religious, and secular interests. The former Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Kenneth Minima, revealed this yesterday during a valedictory session and a pull-out ceremony. He said Nigeria could have defeated Boko Haram if there was a united voice against counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency. He says that strict disciplinary measures instilled through court-martial actually helped to turn the table around against the insurgents. He has advised that the best thing now is to require us to rise in unison to condemn the action against the insurgents and other criminal elements to foster peace in our nation. Meanwhile, talking about the insurgency, Cameroon is to deploy troops to its northern states, northern region. This is to check the state of terrorist attack, particularly female suicide bombers. 7 persons were killed in a village called Chakamari, and the regional government there has also banned female wearing burqa because all the attacks were carried out by female suicide bombers. Also, the Daily Trust reports that 12,000 Nigerians who had fled Nigeria for Cameroon have now returned and have arrived through Shuaga border in Adamawa State. They have been screened by the military and security agents, immigration and security, and NEMA has actually taken 1,112 and settled them at Malakuri IDP camp in Yola. Meanwhile, in Adamawa State, Madagali, local hunters have arrested 3 persons they suspected were Boko Haram, and also in Borno, in Kumbuga, members of the family reported 4 of their members and handed them over to civilian GPS. These were also handed over to Governor Kashim Shettima during the visit. This story will interest you, Claire. Enugu State government now has to grant 6 months as maternity leave for nursing mothers. It is part of the 1-week activity marking the breastfeeding week. It is also to grant 3 weeks paternity leave to husbands whose wives are on maternity leave to enable the father support the nursing mothers. The Commissioner for Health, Sam Ubu, disclosed this to mark the World Breastfeeding Day. The state government has also amended the civil service rule to encourage mothers to engage in recommended 4 to 6 months exclusive breastfeeding.
This is good news, even though I have since retired from that group. But for women, who are still, within, the group, members of that group, it's very good news for them. It's a positive step that the Enugu State government has taken. It's one of the issues that women groups have been advocating. It's been on the table for a very long time now, and this is what state governments, should emulate as well. And again, like we said here, I think it was yesterday or the day before, talking about, giving women, more platform to be able to breastfeed, extensively. Some people are going to say, look, they should be given breaks, during work and all that. So maybe they don't do that. So I think this is commendable coming from the
Lagos State also took the lead in instituting that. My worry, however, is that the 3 months maternity granted to the fathers. If care is not taken, you have a recurring pregnancy. That is the only thing that I fear there.
No, but the way nature also works, but I'm sure you know that during lactation, pregnancy usually does not occur. I don't know. That's the received wisdom. For about 50 days.
That's not absolutely correct.
No, I'm not saying absolutely. I said that's the received wisdom. I don't know. I didn't have that experience. I can't pontificate on that. But just before we sign off, the significance of what is happening in NNPC probably has not been sufficiently captured. Now, if you recall, before now, there were reports that the NNPC was going to be split into 2 organizations. Kaduna State Governor said, look, dismantle the NNPC. Now, the word used was kill. NNPC. Nigeria. From what we are seeing, the NNPC is not about to be killed. That's one. Secondly, the NNPC, in the meantime, is probably not going to be split into 2 organizations, as had been earlier speculated in the media, and the President himself responded to that when we had him on the program last week. But significantly, the changes that we are seeing, they seem to be, in the normal run of, change of headsmen at the NNPC. Take a look at the history of NNPC, which was formerly NNOC, that came into existence. Nigerian National Oil in 1971, NNPC became NNPC in 1977. We've always had this upheaval. So, but the new direction is something that we have to watch out for in terms of its policies, and particularly some of the key items that are embedded in the PIB. The separation of the regulator of the industry, which is the DPR, from the energy companies, which is an NPC that goes into joint ventures.
All right, Kingsley and Bayo, the weekend is gradually creeping in, so we'll see you tomorrow Friday.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
We're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we're moving on now a step ahead to beginning our conversation, but that will be after Kingsley has given us the background information.
Well, the background that we need to give is to indicate that we discussed crude oil theft on Monday, and that was the opener for us. On that occasion, of course, our correspondent, Nnamdi Odupo, Nnamdi Odupo is sports commentator on radio. Nnamdi Odupo, our correspondent on television, gave us a background as to the perspectives with regard to crude oil theft as well as its impact on the economy. Let's listen again to that background as the basis for kicking off the second leg of our discussion this morning.
The main chunk of Nigeria's revenue generation and has been since the 70s. And in spite of the recent dwindling price of oil in the international markets, the country continues to substantially depend on the sale of crude, legally that is, while it suffers significant losses from illegal crude sales and oil theft. The subject of oil theft has been on the table of national discourse for years, with pundits describing the development at some point as an unending war and seemingly unwinnable. This perhaps derives from the fact that the nefarious practice has indeed lingered for years, resulting in huge financial losses for a country in dire need of the monetary resources that would have accrued from legal sales. The relevant authorities have often attempted to paint a picture of just how terrible the situation is. The Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NITI, said Nigeria lost a total sum of $10.9 billion to oil theft from 2009 to 2011. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, admitted that last year alone, Nigeria lost between 32 million naira and 100 million naira to pirates. The NNPC puts the nation's loss to about $12 billion annually. An international oil and gas website, theoilprice.com, had in a recent publication described Nigeria as a country with the highest incidence of crude oil theft in the world. It claimed that with as much as 400,000 barrels of crude oil stolen daily, Nigeria tops countries like Mexico, Iraq, Russia and Indonesia were among the top 5 countries most linked. It puts Nigeria's losses to crude theft at $1.7 billion, about 272 billion naira per month. In Nigeria, oil theft is a nefarious commercial craft associated with criminal gangs, militants tapping crude from pipelines for local refining, while the large quantities of stolen crude leaves Nigeria's shores to foreign countries where it is sold illegally. A closer evaluation of the situation showed that beyond pipeline vandalization, several methods are adopted to cut away crude oil and dispose of at high sea, An expert saying going by the sophistication and the paraphernalia required to engage in the legal trade, it is possible that oil bunkering may be perpetrated by highly placed individuals with some international business clubs and machineries to embark on the illicit act. But then, just who are these individuals? That is the question that resonates in the minds of many in the country as the nefarious activity continues to pose a major challenge to Nigeria's economic fortune.
Alright, thank you Nnamdi Odipo for that laying the perspective for our conversation this morning, which we actually started on Monday. And now joining us to speak to the issue of the day that of course oil theft in Nigeria, we have here in our studio a former Minister of Transport, Honorable Isa Ibrahim Bio. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Alright, and we also expect our guest from the Port Harcourt window. I'm told that he's not yet with us, but when he does come, alright, Dr. Chris Okiyo has just joined us from our Port Harcourt Network studio. Dr. Okiyo, thank you very much for joining us. You were with us on Monday.
Good morning.
Okay, we also have two guests in the meantime at our Lagos Network Center. First, let me welcome Rear Admiral Francis Dan Akman, his former flag officer commanding the Western Naval Command. He's retired now, but certainly not tired. Rear Admiral, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, and good morning.
Mr. Peter Esole is a very well-known face until recently as President of the Trade Union Congress, TUC. Mr. Esole, gentlemen, both of you, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. Okay, well, so we're having some audio snacks in the meantime, but let's begin with the former Minister of Transport, Alhaji Isa Ibrahim Bio. You, at some point, while you served as Minister of Transport, have the remit of dealing with the menace of crude oil theft. Why is it that the problem persists and on such an industrial scale as we are now having?
Thank you very much. I believe that there is supposed to be collaborative efforts from all arms of government, both by the executive arm, the legislative arm, the operators, the security agencies, oil companies, the communities. But once this collaborative effect is lacking, we get what we are having now in Nigeria. Well, at the point in 2009, there was this issue of oil theft, and then I was asked by the late President Abuja to write a report, and I was opportune to have area surveillance of our coastal line, and the process one discovered a lot of vessels, illegal vessels, hanging around our coastal waters, and that is uncalled for. Unless such things are addressed, there's no way you can be able to control or theft. People get into a maritime domain without check, without being identified, without getting information where they are there for. And the report we gave, unfortunately, has not been implemented. It was that stage that Global West came in that they want to be involved in the security of our maritime domain. But I think at that time government felt that the protection and defense of our territorial water is the responsibility of Nigerian Navy. So I think that contract was not given, but subsequently the contract was given to Tompolo. But I believe that the Nigerian Navy, the name Maritime Police, which is under Minimasa, and Minimasa itself, and the NNPC, and the Nigerian Air Force, if they're able to come together like other countries, I believe they will be able to check oil theft with political will. And I'm happy to congratulate Mr. President for having the will now, President Muhammad Buhari, because we have seen so far that he has got the will by banning 113 vessels that have been entering illegally to be involved in oil bunkering. Secondly, he has been able to dissolve the NNPC board, which has been keeping a blind eye to all these nefarious activities. with the political will and the seriousness of security agencies, I think we will alter the thing of the past. Apparently, in 2009, I discovered that Nimasa and Nigerian Navy had a MOU in which Nimasa provides platform for Nigerian Navy that has the capability to intercept, detect, and perhaps arrest and hand over to the police. But and again, by 2008, American Coast Guard also came to the aid of Nimasa with what we call Regional Maritime Awareness Capability, which was installed in Kirikiri. At Kirikiri, you have these facilities whereby these equipment are installed through computerized, complicated systems to identify vessels that are within Nigerian territorial water. You can key in there, and every vessel is supposed to carry what we call IAS. That is automatic identification system on every vessel. It's mandatory for every vessel to carry IAS. So, and it's IMO compliance. Every vessel that has, whether it's a tanker vessel, or it's a cargo vessel, or it's a passenger vessel, must carry IAS. That's automatic identification system. On this system, you have radar, you have sensors that transmit information and messages to either VTS, that is vehicle traffic service centers, such as maybe on the land or even in the helicopters that are being manned by Air Force, can be able to identify, and it's mandatory for every ship or vessel to put on its IAS at any given time, so that you can know all the information. The flag is carried, whether it is registered in America or Norway or Mexico or whatever. Its capacity, what cargo is it carrying, supposed to be identified. What was the last port of departure and what is it doing with territorial water, supposed to be known. Automatically, by these systems, you can, whether willingly or unwillingly, you have systems that can identify vessels without even their cooperation, and you know what they are doing within your territorial water. And I believe the Nigerian Navy who have this capability to identify vessels. Do we have this capability? I think they should, because our sovereignty starts with our ability to defend or protect our territorial water. If we cannot protect and keep surveillance of our territorial water, then we are not sovereign. You said that the Americans came and helped install this at Kirikiri. That was in 2008. I expected it and I was there. Okay. Do you have any information whether it's functional still? Or who was in charge, by the way? Nimasa was there. Do you have any information whether it's still functional? When I'm in the web, I love the news here. Okay. Yes. Before I take Mr. Esale in Lagos, it's not that we're dealing with the issue of capacity to man our shores. That's not the question. That's not the case. That's not the case. No. Is it? The question is, it is the case. The case that it is the case of not knowing what is happening around our coastal line. Because if you have vessels, large tanker vessels are not like even cargo vessels. They are much bigger than even cargo vessels. Because you don't see tanker vessels even anchored within our port, because we don't have the requisite draft for tanker vessels to anchor within our ports. They are very large vessels, so they can be identified. If Nigeria at this stage cannot have systems that are being applied all over the world to identify vessels coming into our territorial water, either by Nimasa or by Nigerian Navy or by Nigerian Air Force, is very unfortunate. For instance, let me consider in Italy, they use AIS. Allow to do it. We will come back to it because it's already indicated a number of points. First, there was a report that was prepared in 2009. What happened to that report? What are some of the highlights of the report? Plus other issues. But we have other guests. Yeah, but seriously, I don't know, the true value of it. But I thought there was a time that the Nigerian maritime sector
got IMO certification.
Of course.
So what was that certification all about? If we didn't have this capacity to monitor large vessels coming into our shores?
I think the IMO monitors all ports based on their safety and security measures. And the IMO is concerned more of safety and security. And that is what the Act of NIMASA has empowered them. But they don't have the laws to curtail oil theft. Oil theft, they can only get information and pass it to the relevant agencies, either to the Navy or to the police. But apparently, if there's collaboration between all these agencies, I believe intrinsically Nigeria should be able to control oil theft. Okay.
All right.
Let's go back to
Lagos. I would like to bring in now Rear Admiral Francis Akman, Dana Akman. He commanded the Western Naval Command. Rear Admiral, you've listened to the former Minister of Transport. On Monday when we discussed the program, we had join us here the current Chief of Training and Operations at the Naval Headquarters, also Rear Admiral. From the issues that have been elaborated upon with regard to crude oil theft, it would appear that the Navy is handicapped. But from your experience, what are the major challenges that have provided a leeway for the fleets to thrive in the Niger Delta?
Firstly, I think the Nigerian Navy has been up to the mark in terms of combating crude oil theft. We are beginning to develop better capacities and capabilities at detection, which is very crucial. I think in the next 12 months, Nigeria will have, as part of this Commander's tool, an equipment called Falcon Eye. We'll have the capacities to have vessels within our waters up to 220 nautical miles detected, tracked, monitored, analyzed, and whatever activities is illegal, there will be all capabilities to intervene. There's always been a lacuna about the ability to detect and ability to respond. It is very frustrating when we detect some malfeasance in our waters and we cannot respond. Nigeria Navy has vessels of all mixes now. There are new ones that have been brought into the fleet. It is the capability to respond to this malfeasance that is crucial. I think that last year I remember that I was privileged to deliver a paper on funding the Navy, and the lacuna was created by the fact that we couldn't even fuel the vessels that we have in the inventory of the Navy. Two of these vessels, the ones we got from the US, we require to stay at sea for 2 weeks, 970,000 liters of diesel, just diesel alone. To put these two vessels to sea, we need about 30 trucks, diesel trucks of 33,000 each capacity. That has been quite enormous. We need close to 240 million per month to get these two ships to sea for a month. If you look at that for a year, you guess what I'm talking about. So we need to fund the Navy to be able to have vessels at sea. Response is key. You might detect, if you don't have the means of response, it's as good as not detecting at all. Yes, capabilities have been built. There is a remark that has limitations, but the new system, which is the Falcon Eye, the training to man those equipment has started, and I think in the next 12 months that system will be commissioned. It will have 13 radars along the coastlines, both coastal radars and HF radars to peak as far as, like I said, 220 nautical miles. So the essence of having ships lighter will be over, but there is the need to key in to response. So we need to provide more platforms of various things, both the small ones, the medium-sized vessels, and of course the offshore patrol vessels. And what is key there, not just having the vessels, because the vessels are now available, 4 of them, 2 of them are very new, they came from China, and the rest, we need to have funds to fuel them, so we can put to sea and cut the excesses of transfer of crude oil to the big ships. The former minister did mention these ocean-going tankers. They're quite weak, they don't come to any of our channels. They stay at about 10, 15, 20 nautical miles away. Those who steal crude and don't have capacity to use them for local refineries transport this stolen crude to these big vessels at sea. There is a need to intercept them, to monitor them. And the only way you can do that is to put ships at sea, have aircraft monitoring, and have helicopters to counter. They need the platforms. The guys who are committed. Commitment is endemic in us as a service, but we need the platforms and the tools to work. I think that is what is key.
All right, thank you, Rear Admiral. Mr. Peter Sale, you are from, of course, one of the host oil communities, so this is quite a familiar terrain for you. And of course, you were a union leader and a major stakeholder in this sector. Now, in the first part of our discussion on this topic, some of our guests were able to identify loopholes which have been exploited by oil thieves, so to speak, to siphon crude oil out of the shores of Nigeria, costing, of course, the nation billions of money in hard currency. Now, the expensive nature of the creeks have been cited as a major hindrance. Again, like you must have heard Honorable Ibrahim Isabiu has said, we do require some sophisticated capabilities in terms of equipment. What are your thoughts? How expensive are the creeks, so to speak?
Yes, thank you very much. I think one thing that is clear here is that from what the Admiral said and also what you also heard from the former minister, is that he's made reference to collaboration between the various security agencies. And I want to tell you that for the bunkering to go on the way it is going or the way it's happening, is that there's also collaboration between the various security agencies. For you to be able to do the bunkering, you must be also be able to settle these various security agencies. You're not going to tell me that these guys will move from point A to point B on the high sea without one or two security agencies being aware. That is one. Then the second aspect of it is that even those that are apprehended, how many of them have been persecuted? How many of them have been brought to trial and successfully persecuted and sentenced with what our law says? There are none. So that in itself is also there's no deterrent. So everybody has to, if it's possible, everybody has to go in there and everybody has to continue. Because what you have is that is what I call easy money. It is easiest way of making so much money. Now you're looking at 400,000 barrels, even at $100 or $50 per barrel, and you have the opportunity of being able to strip 10,000 barrels a day. You are a billionaire. So everybody takes advantage of that. And then number two, you also have to ask yourself that we are not forward looking. You cannot say 20 years ago we were having bunkering, and you say the bunkering was about 20,000 barrels, and now you are going to 400,000 barrels. It means that those who were doing the bunkering, they are now moving from level A to level 2. It's now highly sophisticated. So the country also has to match up with that sophistication to make sure that they are also able to arrest this. And because we are lacking all of this, so they are also taking advantage of it. We talk about pipeline vandalization. Once you have a human problem, there is also a human solution to it. If you say you have a pipeline that is being vandalized, there are enough technology to help you to make sure that it becomes practically difficult to do that. One of the suggestions we're looking at a particular time is that in other parts of the world you have whoever is producing the crude differs from whoever is moving it through the pipeline. So the responsibility of those who manage the pipeline, a company, that is their core responsibility, their core duty to manage the pipeline. If the country is running its crude through that pipeline, it is the responsibility of that company to take insurance, and the company says, this is 3 million barrels that we expect to pump every day. Whatever happens, if we get less than our 3 million barrels, then you must pay. And then because they have insurance, they too also have to ensure that they have everything that is available. And it's not costing that much for you to be losing about $10 billion per annum on things like this. So what we need to do is to ask ourselves, what are we not doing right? And one of the things that we are not doing right is what the Royal Admiral have spoken about. And if you talk, I've always said it, in terms of whatever policies, documentation that we have in this part of the world, we always have it. If you go to the Ministry of Transport, you have everything. But the actual implementation, that is where we are lacking. We don't have the discipline to follow through on anything. At the end of the day, it's kept in the shelf. And then when something that happens, what we are doing is that we are reacting to the event. And nobody, most times when you react to an event, what you are doing, you are operating from a level of being emotional. And what that means is that you only make decisions that is for the moment. and then the bigger one will be waiting for you. And that's why they say sometimes in the military they say you prepare your military in peacetime, not in wartime. So if we sit down to look at what we are doing in peacetime, they say this is where our oil and gas will be in 30 years, 40 years. This is the current challenges that we are facing. So we are able to now profile solution not only to the now, but we also have solution for the future.
Well, Mr. Osere, thank you very much for the points that you have raised, but the 2 points that I would like to take immediately for the purpose of this conversation, you referred to, or you restated the fact of the allegation of collusion amongst the feeds and then the security agencies. And secondly, you've also talked about the need for us to have a better governance model, particularly for our pipelines. Namely, those who are in charge of the pipelines ordinarily ought to take out some insurance for the pipelines, which will of course have the same knock-on effect. We'll come to those points presently, but before we go to Port Harcourt, where Dr. Chris Okiyo is, I would like the Rear Admiral sitting beside you there to respond to the often, notorious allegation of collusion amongst security agencies. And I've said this, and I'm sure that we're all familiar. Some years ago, there was a ship that was arrested, African Pride, and after a while, the ship was said to have been missing. The whole ship, it disappeared.
Well, and I think that those that were involved, there was an investigation that was carried out. Thereafter, there was a court-martial proceeding, and those that were found culpable were dealt with in line with the Navy Act, or the Armed Forces Act. But having said that, when I was FOC, I think the issue is counseling, ensuring that your men on the job are committed. Secondly, and the fact that you also address the gaps that you have. What were the gaps? The gaps were the channels that were in my area of responsibility. Having said that, I also made sure that those who were working with the other arms of government knew the stance of the leadership of the command, which meant that if you toyed with your job, you are going to be sanctioned and you paid dearly for it. And I think that is ongoing. Secondly, I also privileged to work with SNEPCO. I'll give you the incident that happened in 2006. The Shell wellhead or reed EA2 was vandalized, and SNEPCO needed to restart the wellhead. At a meeting we had with my command, it was resolved that we deployed 2 vessels to the Delta area. Delta area, I'm talking about the Escravos Channel and of course the Forcados Channel. We had then in our inventory some CAT-class vessels, and these are vessels that were given to us by the US, the United States of America. They had funding problems for diesel and the rest. I'll just give you this synopsis to let you know how much this can become. At the end of the day, we had an MOU with SNEPCO, and they agreed to fuel these 2 vessels. We deployed to Escravos and of course to Forcados. I'm talking about the estuaries. That we were able to monitor movement in Wari Channel and Escravos Channel. Whilst of course we kept surveillance over the work that is being done in EA2. So apart from assisting the oil company to restart their wellhead or their reed, we also kept vigilance over the channels. And for the period that those vessels were there, commitment from the captain and the crew, we did not lose even a drop of crude oil. If you have the propensity to break pipes and steal crude within the channels, of course, you had also the tendency to have to stay in and what to do with it, because we blocked all access to sea. And if you did dare to go to us meeting weather vessels at sea, we went out there with our helicopters, we went out there on patrol vessels, and ensured that these SSs were caught. This was because we had ships fueled 24/7 and provided for through an MOU we had with the oil company. And I think this commitment has been reinvented with the Navy more than it was in the past. Things are changing for the better. Officers are more committed, are more trained, and of course they are always given, they are committed, and the key international discourse on corruption and the excesses of what people do outside the state. So basically, commitment from the service is key, and that is ongoing, and that has improved. And like I said also, tooling the services like the Navy, and of course to ensure that they can put to sea and they can curb these excesses at the malfeasance of illegal oil bunkering. Commitment is key, provision of the tools, and of course, and like I said, I think the direction which the Navy stands now. We need to put all these tools to check. We need to encourage them. And of course, like I said, commitment is key, equipment is key.
Rear Admiral Francis Akpan, thank you for your contributions. Let's now get to Port Harcourt, where Dr. Chris Ekiyo, thank you for your patience. You were with us on Monday when we started this conversation. Mr. Peter Esele in Lagos alluded to the issue of connivance or collaboration, as he puts it. Now, dealing with these issues, if it is so, would be crucial to making a headway in stopping crude oil theft. You have been an activist, and I know that in your very active days as an activist from the Niger Delta, this was one issue the youth tried to deal with. How pervasive was it?
Well, thank you. I have listened to everybody talking, from the minister to the Admiral and then to my brother Esele. Basically, it falls in line with what I talked about last week. I said the conspiracy theory. If you look at the black and white picture of what is done, the pipelines are not in the high sea out there in the continental shelves. They are within the country. Somebody has to go there, vandalize it, collect crude, put in low draft vessels, truck those vessels out of low water shelves into some medium class vessels. Maybe those ones will also move it to those very big cargo vessels that the minister made a reference to. Now, it's a whole lot of process, starting from the hinterlands up to the high sea. And then in all these processes, you can find out that mere travelers in the creeks are made to put their hands up in small boats when you travel in the creek, right? A century there and there on the waterways. The Navy has capacity on the high sea or somewhere in the continental shelf. The NIMASA itself has its own structures, including the automatic identification system that the minister mentioned. Now, but because there is a conspiracy theory, because there is unpatriotic attitude on the part of those responsible for mining all these things, there's a deliberate effort to sabotage the system and cause a national leakage. Now, this is so because too many people along the line benefit. Those in government, those out of government, those who are doing the bunkering. There's a cabal. And I remember the African Pride story. Radna Abumara was a victim. I found out much later that even though some of the naval officers were ready to do the right thing, the owners of that vessel were stronger. And so victims became the Navy instead of those who were involved in the actual act. Now, that also demoralized security agencies who sincerely, in quote, would want to carry out the job. They go in and then they find out that the owner of this product is perhaps one other bigger general or one other bigger, very influential friend of a general or a man in government, that if they try to ruffle his feathers, then they will have to pay for it. So everybody turns a blind eye. I can imagine that vessels at the high sea will turn off that automatic identification system and remain there. And when you take a tour, you fly over, you see all those vessels there, they're not identifiable in our system, waiting to lift crude. Until we decide to be patriotic to our country, whether the Navy, NIMASA, the Ministry of Transport, the Joint Task Force on the Highway, citizens to be patriotic, we can put all the technology in place. The human factor will make a mess of that process. I think that what is more important now is more of the willpower of government to provide deterrence for those who are willingly willing to undermine our national integrity. Whether the Navy, whether the NIMASA, whether foreign traders who want to buy this crude. Like I said, we need to see people being prosecuted in a way and manner that we serve as deterrent to others. Until those things are done, the laws are always there. All the laws you need to make sure that leakages should stop are there. The multinationals themselves are also not going to be exonerated because you are producing and you are supposed to pipe this thing to a particular point. You have leakages and you are not bothered. You keep producing and you're losing as much as 400,000 barrels. NMPC needs to be unbundled. I align with RFI on that issue. There's too much powers there, so they can all sit down and then just do paperwork and perfect the leakages. This has to stop. If we have agencies monitoring one another and working with the aim to achieving a common goal, and agency A knows that I can't do this without agency B, and they are mutually exclusive, then there is a chance that A can check B, B can check C, and in that loop, all of them cannot be compromised. We need to go that hog. The issue of all this community bunkering that people always talk about is just but a little than nothing. That's how I look at it.
Dr. Kuseki, you're still staying with you and looking at how we can break the conspiracy theory, break the cycle of connivance. In spite of what you said on Monday about the living conditions of people in host oil communities, it still deserves from them to be active participants in the whole response mechanism to checking oil theft. So how can we begin to mainstream them, the communities, the people in those communities, into our response mechanism to countering crude oil theft?
Okay, I have always said about the issue of equity. If I have a sense of ownership of a property, it belongs on me to secure it. Now what we have is a scenario where oil has been taken from my backyard, moved to point A, B, C, without looking to what happens to me. I can't farm no more. I can't have access to potable water, good schools, or good roads. So, you take, and then somebody comes around and offers me pittance and says, listen, I also want to take. I can give you this for now. I find that it improves me a little bit better than what the government is doing. I then therefore need to say, I'm dying anyway. The best bet is, before I die, let me see what I can do to keep living. So I turn my eye around and allow them to do what they're doing. So long as I keep getting gratification, better than what government is giving. But if the government turned the table around, President Yaradua, listen to us when we made that presentation in 2009. I'm glad Issa Bio is there. He talked about the equity and granted 10% equity to communities. One, there is a sense of ownership, and the communities are well developed, like Aberdeen, like Netherlands, and all those areas where oil are being produced, Texas. Community understands that there is value for nationalism, where the government is concerned about our welfare in terms of the products being taken from our backyard. The community makes it a responsibility to say, listen, you can't break our pipelines, and if you try it, they will take you up, and where they can't, they will raise the necessary alarm. But the scenario is now that whether we talk or we don't talk anyway, it's not important. So the community don't have to kill itself to do what the Navy or the JTF is paid to do. In any case, those communities are benefiting because immediately the experts finish their own big stealing. Then community youth and all those who are doing local bunkering will also go there and scoop the remaining one and cook it for diesel, which they sell immediately for their use, considering the fact that already you can't even get legitimate diesel in those creeks where the oil is coming from. Crude oil, diesel is sold at 5 times the normal price that you can find in Kano in this Niger Delta area. Probably petrol will pay as much as 200 in the creeks per liter, and that's where you take the crude from. So if they can cook local diesel and use their Indian lister to give themselves electricity, which the government cannot provide, and probably sink local boreholes and power it, they will rather wait for the bunkers to the big business people to leave, and then they go and cook, and that is what we are celebrating. Have destroyed illegal refineries. I think strongly that Nigeria needs to model itself in line with China to provide modular refineries that can serve community needs. That's where we should go and get community to be involved in terms of equity.
Well, Dr. Chris Okiyo, thank you very much there for your remarks. Only just to add that these small bunkers or these small illegal bunkers or oil thieves, as it were, they're running pollution plants. Claire, recall one of our guests said that on Monday. Pollution plants, they're ruining the environment and also precipitating the onset of cancer, various types of cancer in that environment. Let's return now to former Minister of Transport, Alhaji Issa Ibrahim Bio. Alhaji Issa, you kicked off this conversation, and one of the points you made was to reference the report and recommendations that you made to former President Yaradua sometime in 2009. What were the highlights of your report and what is still relevant today from that report?
Thank you very much. We discovered that the vessels that come to Nigerian territorial waters they do not comply with IMO regulations. They switch off their AIS, making it difficult to be tracked. And if you can't track a vessel, you won't know what is there in your territorial water to do. Either it is illegal fishing or coming to dump poisonous poison waste, or whether it's there for oil theft, or even to undermine your national security. It could be a surveillance vessel. As a result, we believe that the implementing agencies like Nimasa, Navy, should report this, and I think we have reported to IMO. Any vessel that switches off its IAS, we do have territorial water, should be seriously deregistered, or just like the president has the ban 113, it should have been prompt action immediately that could be able to address such illegal activities. I think that's key. Secondly, I believe that we recommended that platforms should be provided modern, sensitive, technologically advanced equipment to be provided to both NIMASA and the Navy, whereby we could be able to identify vessels up to maybe 200 nautical miles from our shores to know whether with their collaboration or with their cooperation, you'll be able to identify the vessel through your own sophisticated identifying system offshore, or using helicopters where you mount this automatic identifying system, which you can be able to identify a vessel that is in your water or coming or approaching your water. Then you can have all this information, whether they collaborate or they cooperate with you or not. You now know where that vessel is coming to do. That should be strongly taken up by this administration.
Thank you, Honorable Ibrahim Issa, for your contributions. Let's quickly go to Lagos, where, of course, Mr. Peter Esele is. Mr. Peter Esele, early on, Dr. Chris Ekiyo alluded to the adoption of the Chinese model of establishing modular refineries, and I do believe that this is part of the contents of the petroleum industry bill, which is now still at the debating table. Unfortunately for us, the former Senate Chairman Senate Committee on Rules and Business, Senator Enangeta, was here to say that, look, that bill may have to be represented, and not only represented, we also have to take another look at the content of that bill. I don't know, what from your perspective, how can we get that bill off, get it passed, and of course begin to utilize it to check this challenge that we have?
Before I answer that question, I want to go back to what Chris and Victor Sabelo reacted to by saying that those who were committing those minor infractions don't create that they were polluting the environment. What I want to say is that when people start thinking of environment is when you have a middle class. When you live the life of a middle class, that is when you start thinking of the environment. The first thing those in the creek want to do is that they want to survive at that moment. It is only when they're living above survival level that they start concerning themselves what is happening in the environment. On the PID issue, I don't think there's been any bill that is the longest running bill anywhere in the world. What I'm saying that is that the PID metamorphosed during the time of Abuja from Oil and Gas Implementation Committee, and then before it now became Petroleum Industry Bill, and it has been on now, what I would say, on forever. And with what Etayana is saying now, that invariably means that we are going back to square one. What I was even advising is, why don't you look at the PIB and say, okay, this is what we need now for oil and gas, or this is what should be our gas law, and then we put our attention on that, because I know the major contention in that PIB bill is the issue of another 10% to local community. That is where it's having a lockdown, because that's where you need to have political intervention. The former president could not muster enough support in the National Assembly for it to become law. And it's been on. What we need to do is, we are not going to have that industry waste, because right now we are eating our reserve. There is no exploration going on. Nobody is exploring for more. Our reserve is dwindling by the day. And so what we need to do is, if we have to cherry pick and say, okay, this is what we think we need to make life easy for the IOCs or whoever is interested in exploration, to continually increase our reserve. And then we also have to look at, okay, this is what should be our gas law. Because I think Nigeria is more of a gas country than crude oil, because we have more gas. And for us to actually achieve the transformation or the change that we are looking for in our economy in every sphere, I think gas will be the driver. We need gas for power,
we need gas for so many other things that we need to do. And all we need, even in our homes, all we need to do is, first of all, let's look at the laws that we know that can quicken investment in gas, so that now becomes something to drive our economy forward. But when you hear politicians telling you now that they don't think that the PIB will fly, it speaks volume, and it makes you think that we've wasted time and resources in putting that bill together. Because even up to the twilight of the last administration, we will still hear the Senate President and the Speaker telling us that the PIB will be passed before the end of the last, the tenure of the last Senate and the House of Reps. But that is where we are now. It now depends on the current president. If the current president feels that is his own priority, because one thing we must know, it has to be the priority of the president. It was the priority of Abuja to see what he can do to bring that sector together, and it was handed over to President Jonathan. Fortunately, President Jonathan didn't have the political will or could not muster the needed strength to make it law. The goal further is that are we now going, the way it is, from my own investigation, I was also a member of the PIB implementation task force. I was also part of that. So from all my interaction with all the political actors, I know that 10% is a big problem, because you have people who feel that the Niger Delta is getting too much. You have the Ministry of Niger Delta, they have the amnesty program, and they now feel that getting another 10% to them is an overkill. So it's now left to President Muhammadu Buhari to decide how he's going to work this fine line, how he will ensure that everybody, every section in the country now have that mutual interest, and all their interest is taken care of. And that is the only way we can move on to the next level. But right now, I will tell you categorically that the oil and gas industry right now, the investment level is one of the lowest in recent times.
Well, Mr. Peter Isoro, again, thank you for your very illuminating remarks. Just, to top up on what you said, I think the Oil and Gas Implementation Committee started during the Obasanjo years, actually, with the late Dr. Lewal Lukman and others serving on the committee. And in terms of investment in gas, I think the gas master plan ordinarily should be addressing that. You saw the squabbles arising from the establishment of the plant, whether at Ogirigme or whatever name it was, opted to be called. That also could take care of that. But we don't have time to go into some of those details. We'd like to thank you for your comments. But my question goes to Rear Admiral Dan Akman, retired Rear Admiral Dan Akman. Dan Akman, just before we sign you off, the point has been made. Yes, you see all these vessels which are on illegal missions, as it were, on in Nigeria's territorial waters. Some of them switch off their automatic identification systems. In other words, they are engaged in illegal activities. I doubt, Claire, if there has been a report of any such vessel, receiving any military treatment by way of sinking or some other veterans. Why has this not taken place, assuming it's within our powers to do so?
Thank you very much. Arrests have been made in the past, like Mr. Peter said. I think we need to put in place the judicial mechanism so that these cases can be disposed of on time. Most of the bases are clogged with seized vessels here and there from Lagos to Calabar, and I think it's time to dispose of these cases as fast as possible. No orders have been given to the Navy to sink such vessels, and so the Navy cannot on its own arrest vessels and sink them, because you end up in court instead of your officers doing jobs that you're supposed to do for the country. But having said that, orders will be given to that effect. But the vessels that have been arrested, they will need to dispose of these cases on time, and of course, sanctions must be meted out as soon as possible. That is one way that could serve as a deterrent to these would-be ship owners who think collecting around Nigerian waters is like a privilege. So firstly, we need to put judicial laws, we need to put the judicial system, quicken the judicial system so that the cases can be disposed with on time. We need to give hard knocks to those that are sanctioned, that is serve as a deterrent. And if the nation feels that these vessels should be sunk, when arrested, these orders must come, of course, from nowhere, from the presidency. But having said that, the Navy has done its best at all times. It has AIS on most of its vessels, and those laws that do switch off, they have been approached either to lay anchor and sail off, or have been arrested for not putting on their AIS systems. I think we must have a system that these vessels can be tracked. But like I said, futuristically, if you do switch off your AIS, the Falcon Eye system will pick you up. It will alert the system, and of course, prompt action will be taken in the future to ensure that you are arrested immediately. But remember, like I said, futuristically too, if you have the capability to detect, you need to have the capability to respond. So the reason you need more ships, more aircraft. And of course, the collaboration going on between the Air Force and the Navy is ongoing, where the Air Force maritime patrol aircraft do go out on patrols, and of course, whatever are the malfeasance at sea, such are being reported to the services and actions are being taken. So we need maritime security. It's not just the job of the Navy alone. It's a collaboration of all those that have a stake at the maritime domain. The NASA, MP, Customs, Immigration, Minister of Transport, etc. It should be a collaborative thing.
Right, Rear Admiral Francis Dan Akpan, former flag officer, Western Naval Command, retired. Thank you very much for your contributions. Certainly, you don't look tired. Thank you. And we also like to
buy Dettol-friendly soap for 200 Naira and save 50 Naira. You are watching NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng, or you can follow us on Twitter at NTA News Now, or you can like us on Facebook at NTA Network News. Stay connected on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Watch our live stream at www.nta.ng/live. NTA, you choose information.
Alright, we're still watching Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, where this is part 2 of discussion on crude oil theft. The conversation we first had the first part on Monday. We've had 2 guests already from the Lagos Network Center, Peter Isela as well as Rear Admiral Dan Akpan. We've signed them up. We have 2 other guests who will be joining us now from the Lagos Network Center, but in the meantime, we still have with us in the Abuja studios former Minister of Transport, Alhaji Isa Ibrahim Bio, as well as Dr. Chris Okio at our Port Harcourt Network Center. Let me in the meantime welcome Mr. Terry Ajubena, he's a security consultant, as well as Mr. Igwe Achese, President of NUPENG. Gentlemen, both of you are from the Lagos Network Center. I would like to welcome you at this time. Alright, we understand that we're trying to establish our video links once again with the Lagos Network Center. Claire, let's pick up the conversation one more time with the former Minister of Transport. Former Minister of Transport, you've talked about, everybody talked about equipment here and there. And there were some reports in the recent past of NIMASA acquiring some surveillance aircraft. These have been of what use from your perspective?
Yes, thank you very much. Following the recent ministerial briefing by former Minister of Transport, Honorable Umar Idris, he said that NIMASA has bought about 3 surveillance jets that have been equipped with sophisticated surveillance camera radar system that could be able to identify vessels even with infrared capability, vision capability, that can identify vessels or any activity or object within the territorial water. We have handed these platforms to Nigerian Air Force. I believe that that signs of the collaboration or memorandum of understanding between NASA and the Nigerian Air Force in 2014. However, how effective the Nigerian Air Force have put it to use, I don't know. We also bought what we call regional maritime awareness capability for Nigerian Navy that can be able to keep surveillance of about 43 nautical miles of any vessel and then communicate with the vessels and identify the vessel. I don't know how far the Nigerian Navy has put that to use, but I know you must have claimed they have bought this platform for the Air Force and Navy. It is my appeal that NNPC as a body and the international oil companies, they have a major role to play because this is the industry. I cannot imagine how Chevron pipeline will be vandalized and then Chevron could not be able to detect with the modern technology that okay, at particular spots using the GPS, our pipeline association terminal has been breached. So I believe there should show more commitment, put more resources into pipeline surveillance.
That's the pipelines are owned, by a different entity, and that's why Asole was saying that look, the owners and managers of pipelines ought also upgrade their governance system by getting, for instance, into insurance mechanism to say, listen, we insure our pipelines. If there are breaches, this is what we get in terms of recompense.
We'll come back to welcome our guests from Lagos, of course, the new guest from Lagos. Mr. Terry Ajabena is a security consultant. We thank you for joining us, Mr. Ajabena. We also have with him Mr. Igwe Chese. He is president of the National Union of Petroleum Engineers and Natural Gas Association. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
All right, let me quickly take Mr. Chese, that's the president of NIPEN. Some time ago, I think that was about last year, we heard reports of some arrests and seizures made by the EFCC of some oil marketers who have allegedly collected oil subsidies and of course not supplying the oil. So what, in your opinion, is the place of subsidy or fuel subsidy in this whole mess that we found ourselves?
Well, it's very unfortunate. As you are all aware, the issue of subsidy started in 2006, and that was during Obasanjo's administration. And then you begin to ask, what were we subsidizing, in terms of petroleum products in that period? And that is because our refineries were not working, and importation was also introduced into the country. And we were hoping that within the shortest possible time, our refinery will now come up and on stream and start producing, but unfortunately we didn't get that. I recall in 2010, we raised an alarm on the issues of subsidy scam in the PPPRA. We were believing, hoping that Nigerians also would take up the responsibility. I'm talking about the government at that time. In terms of probing, arresting, and investigating the issues. Up till 2011, into 2012, the House of Rep came up. He said, no, we need to go into investigating what are we paying for? Why are people, scamming the system, and then a lot of huge amount of billions of naira are being wasted in terms of in the issue of payment of subsidy. But up to this moment, I want to ask again, how many have we been able to prosecute in terms of this subsidy scam that took place in 2010, to 2011, 2012? Up to this moment, no one has been prosecuted, and that is where we have the challenges we're having today. And then you ask again, what are we subsidizing? Are we subsidizing refining as a country? Are we subsidizing importation of petroleum products into the country? We have a lot of mess, is surrounding the issues of subsidy, and I just believe that at the end of the day, we'll get it right.
Well, Mr. Igwe, thank you for your comments, but I would like us, to return again to the question of oil theft. The act of breaching pipelines, the act of siphoning from the wellhead, the transportation of crude using barges or baby vessels to the ocean-going tankers. The sophistication of the skill required is not one that you can find commonly on the streets. Now, some of your members, obviously, these are gentlemen and ladies who work in the oil sector, they've also been tapped as persons who are conniving in this whole conspiracy that Dr. Chris Akio spoke about earlier. I mean, we hear the stories of that wellheads being breached and so on and so forth. I don't know how to breach a wellhead. What is it that you have found with regard to your
the collusion of ward members with active members of ex-ward members?
I want to say clearly here that there's nowhere in the issues of crude oil theft you will come to find any of my members alleged to be involved. And we have said clearly here over time that if any member of NUPENG is being found wanting in terms of going into vandalizing warehouses and crude oil lines, should be arrested and prosecuted. But I want to say clearly here, you begin to ask, how can such volumes of products be carried away from a country? And then it is not just carried in a jerrycan. You rightly have mentioned that you're talking about barges and vessels. It is not just something you carry in a jerrycan. It's not just something you carry, it's not 30,000 liters of petroleum product that you carried in a tanker to haul it into a filling station. This is a product you carry in metric tons. In 30,000 metric tons, in 200,000, 260 metric tons, and 190 metric tons, and 160. And I want to ask again, who are the owners of these metric tons of vessels and batches you're talking about? I'm sure no NUPENG member or no NUPENG staff can afford to acquire one vessel of 30,000 metric tons. And that brings me to where we talked about government responsibilities, the security agencies in terms of who is responsible, who is the eyes of the seas that we have our seashores today, like the Navy is there, the Marine Police is also there, and there are also various security agencies. I want to say clearly here that we have our intelligence gathering system, mechanism which we so much trust in this country. I'm talking about the CIDs, I'm talking about the Nigerian Intelligence Agency and the rest of them. So we cannot, in terms of this issue, talk about NUPENG being members of vandalizations of oil warehouses, and then talking about selling of this amount of huge volumes of petroleum in crude oil, as the case may be.
Okay, well, let's go to Mr. Terry Ajobena, who's a security consultant. Mr. Terry Ajobena, I'm sure you must have had the privilege of listening to the other guests who have been discussing the subject matter this morning. If from your own perspective, what are the prescriptions you would like to proffer at this stage, bearing in mind the causative factors as well as the ecology of this thievery?
To start with, I think what needs to happen at this point is we need to examine the entire policing system for our maritime environment. I've been listening on the program today, and there's been a lot of talk about the issue of collaboration. But collaboration is one issue. There's also a fundamental issue of coordination. Who takes the lead on issues that have to do with protection of our maritime assets, of trade that goes on in our maritime waters, and all the rest? Who drives it? You see, so that is one fundamental thing that needs to be examined at this point, because clearly, as everybody has pointed out, and as every Nigerian knows at this point, we are looking at large volumes of crude oil literally disappearing from this country. And it's looking as if everybody is wondering, is it some type of magic, or what kind of thing is going on there? So I think that is first of all, we need to start at that point. Let us begin to examine who takes the lead on this, because you have the various agencies, everybody is doing the best that they can. At the level of the Navy, yes, the Navy is providing and carrying out its own role by way of providing military protection, by way of providing a level of policing. You have NIMASA on the other hand having its own operations, but we must also understand that we expect so much from NIMASA. NIMASA is not a security agency. No matter how we want to cut it, how we want to slice it, NIMASA is not a security agency. In fact, if you ask me, I think they have stretched themselves in the way they have gone about trying to plug some of these leakages. But you see, there's just how much you can expect from them. You can't squeeze an orange and expect to get apple juice out of it. It is impossible. So we need to examine the entire thing. I will say that there are models that are being operated globally that we can choose to study and see what will work for us at this time. That's my own take on this preliminary really.
Thank you for your preliminary contributions to our discussion this morning. Let's get back to Port Harcourt again. We are being joined by another guest, Maurice Alagua, who is an environmental rights activist from our Port Harcourt studios. Thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Chris Akia, if you're still with us, this question is for you. Again, our earlier guest talked about the fact that NIMASA is not a security outfit, and I'm wondering, since there is no coordinating outfit such as you have with the civil defense, coordinating security matters on land, shouldn't we also have a coordinating maritime security agency that may be independent of NIMASA, maybe operating on a commercial basis?
Well, of course, I've watched and I've seen NIMASA in the ocean. I've seen them taking off from Brass, from Bonny, and I think they've been effective to the point that they accost ships, vessels getting into the waters, and then making sure that they are certified as legal, have the legal documents, and also to pay what they are supposed to pay to the federal government. And those that are not meeting this, they are being impounded. I think just as the civil defense is carrying about this issue in terms of oil bunkering, illegal refineries and all of that, especially in the creeks, NIMASA, somebody just said that they have even stressed. They have gone beyond the bounds. They are body. So if they are even doing something like that, no problem. But I think they are even working in the area of trying to ensure that those who are leaving the shores with the stolen crew are also arrested. I remember the case sometime last year or thereabout. There was this rumor of a vessel laden with crude oil that sank somewhere in Bayelsa, one of the communities. I was a victim of that. Myself and Dr. Chris Alagua, we rushed down there. Unfortunately, the community persons arrested us. But we related this to the NIMASA agents, and I think they took prompt action to ensure that the vessel operators were arrested. Having said that, I want to also come in the area of oil theft and the national economy. It is so saddening that when it comes to capital issues, when it comes to financial issues, the federal government is very, very interested. But when it comes to issues of environmental degradation, nothing is being done. Look at, in 2011 December, there was a major oil spill from Shell's Bunga spill. We also, in just a few weeks after, Chevron gas explosion occurred off Kolamba. Just a few months later, there was this total multiple gas eruptions in Egiland. We also have in November 2030, a major oil spill from Egypt Brass Terminal. All these are equipment failure incidents. But nothing is being done, no follow-up, no government agencies to ensure that the livelihood and health of the people are protected. Then what are we talking about? Is government not there for the people? Are they only after the money? What happened in the during the Gulf of Mexico spill? Obama swung into action in defense of the people's livelihood and their health. And a lot of energy went into cleanup. Even till today, they are tracing the oil there. And recently there was a spill in...
Okay, well, Dr. Alagua speaking to us from our Port Harcourt Network Center. Well, clear, the examples that is just cited obviously go to illustrate the point articulated by Chris Akia as well as Esele, that the communities must have a sense of ownership and they must feel a sense of belonging. That if they feel abandoned, of course, then they cannot act as protectors of these national assets. Now, which brings us to another point that I would like the former Minister of Transport to address. Minister of Transport, the way to break this down is to say we just went through the general elections, and security was one key point with regard to the elections. And we saw the various security agencies come together. In fact, there was a security committee that met regularly with INEC officials. You had the police, you had the military, and then you had civil defense, and all persons, all stakeholders who were involved. for the proper policing of crude oil exploration and export as well, therefore seeking to attenuate crude oil theft incidents, what kind of security architecture would you prescribe, and who should be at the apex of it, the president or some other designated official?
Thank you very much. I believe that we need to have a coordinating center that coordinates all these security agencies. Listening to somebody say there should be coordination, so also collaboration. This is the collaboration. I totally agree with that. But in the all the agencies that are involved with maritime security and monitoring and maritime domain, the most competent organization that will be able to coordinate will be the Nigerian Navy, because that is their constitutional responsibility to protect and keep surveillance over territorial water. So I believe they will be able to take that. But in the event that they cannot, I recommend that the federal government should come Nigerian Coastal Guard, so that they will be solely responsible to secure our maritime domain and coordinate other agencies, both NIMASA, the activities of the Air Force, the activities of the Navy. But constitutionally, I believe and strongly that Nigerian Navy should have taken the lead to coordinate all of it, because their own professional calling is the same.
Sorry, I understand what you're saying. But so, look, we face an emergency of sorts. And we say, how do we deal with the question of crude oil theft? Collaboration is not recognized, but the Nigerian Navy probably cannot give instructions to NIMASA. The Nigerian Navy probably cannot give instructions to the Air Force. They can't give instructions to the oil company. So I'm saying, in terms of a governance model for arranging the security arrangements, what from your experience as a former minister would be most effective? Should it be led by the Minister of Transport, or should it be led by the President? Of course, we don't have ministers now. Or by the President designating somebody else, or he himself anchoring this. DPI is also relevant in this matter.
Yes, I believe that the coordination should be directly under presidency with the close supervision of the National Security Advisor. I believe that that will give us the results, because all of them will be answerable to the President and by promptly the National Security Advisor who oversees this. I remember there was an organization then that was scrapped, PICOMS, that's the Presidential Implementation Committee on Maritime Security. It was set up sometimes during Obasanjo's time, but it was scrapped, I think, immediately, maybe during the tail end of the administration, or having the joint administration. That was the coordinating body before under presidency, PICOMS. But I believe that PICOM has done its best and has gone. This administration should be able to set up a coordinating center under the office of the National Security Advisor.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Ibrahim Ishabio. Mr. Echefe in Port Harcourt, in Lagos, I beg your pardon. Now, Nigeria is signatory to IMO, and recently there was a ban on some very large crude carrying vessels. Now, what obligations do you think that the international, what are Nigeria's international obligations with respect to security of those visiting vessels that berth at our ports?
Honestly, there are a lot of challenges over this issue. I recall recently we did attend a program, African Leadership Forum, that was summoned by the U.S. President. And I recall vividly in one of our presentations from the labor organization was that there are illegal inflow of cash from the African region into U.S. And that has to be monitored as well when America begin to declare surpluses and increase in their revenue and so on. I would say clearly that every vessel that comes into the Nigerian maritime and coastal environment of Nigeria has a tag that normally it takes before coming into the country. And when the vessel takes a product and is leaving Nigeria as well, there is a specification of the products that he's also carrying out of the country, and it also details where it is coming from. And I'm not surprised when some of these vessels are being, banned from entering Nigerian shore, in lifting in the crude oil, because at the point you ask yourself what was really happening when a vessel comes into Nigeria, before you know illegal bunkering takes place, and a vessel, the crude oil that is to be lifted by America and Nigeria, or by China, because I know when Americans stopped buying our crude oil, China came in to buy crude oil. And from the information we gathered was that China also felt the crude oil they are lifting from Nigeria on a on the international market price can also be gotten in the offshore Nigerian coastal environment at a cheap price, and the same product that is also gotten from Nigeria. And these are the kind of challenges we are having. And I think our maritime agency has a lot of role to play, because even if they are not a security agency, they have regulatory framework powers in terms of regulating some of these vessels and also monitoring the vessel that comes into our maritime environment. For me, there must be a collaboration with the international community. There must be a collaboration with the multinational companies as well that are also extracting and exporting petroleum products out of this country. And once we are able to get these collaborative forces, we'll be able to see how we can also move it. But one concern I have when I heard about the issues of the Navy having a responsibility and so on, I think I don't want us to go into duplications of responsibilities. And as such, I want a situation where supporting the last speaker, the former Minister of Transport, is that there should be an agency, coastal guard agencies, that can also be having a responsibility of making sure our coastal environment is also protected in terms of knowing the kind of vessel that comes in and also that leaves the country. The Navy has a responsibility in terms of securing the coastal environment military-wise, and and also seeing that our country is safe. But when you talk about business, environment, there should be an agency like NIMASA is also doing her best, but there should be a special guard that can also say no, we didn't know some of these issues, and then the vessels are also coming. I think it's very important that we get these things right, and as soon as we do that, it will also go a long way to save us. But most importantly is that I want to say clearly here that our security agencies have a responsibility to play, because I cannot imagine where a vessel that is carrying 30,000 metric tons of crude oil will just disappear in the air, and the next thing you find it is either in Ghana, it's either in Kenya, it's either in Angola, doing business out of the Nigerian coastal environment. But
Igwe Aches, President of NUPEG, that's the Petroleum Workers Union, would like to thank you for your comments. Gentlemen, we are running out of time on this program. Claire, it would appear that there's still a lot to discuss on this subject matter. We also would like to thank Mr. Terry Ajobena, who is seated beside Igwe Aches there at Lagos Network Center. Gentlemen, thank you for being on the program. And then from Port Harcourt Network Center, we also had two guests, Dr. Chris Akiyo, beside us, and then of course Maurice Alagoa, an environmental rights activist. Gentlemen, we thank you for speaking to us from our Port Harcourt Network Center. And clearly, you recorded earlier, we had Riyad Miral Akman, as well as Peter Esera, also from the Lagos Network Center. And here at the Abuja studios, former Minister of Transport, Alhaji Isa Ibrahim Bio, thank you for your contributions to the discussion this morning. Thank you for having me. Okay.
All right, quickly now, remember the MH370, which disappeared 17 months ago. Well, there's the latest development on that. The Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak has confirmed that the debris found on an Indian Ocean last week is from that plane, confirming for the first time that the plane which mysteriously disappeared 17 months ago had crashed. Now, the announcement in Kuala Lumpur ended an agonizing wait for families of the 239 passengers and crew of the Malaysia Airlines flight who had demanded concrete proof of what happened to their missing loved ones. Now, the piece of debris, a wing component called flaperon, was found last week on a beach on the French island, the Reunion, near Madagascar.
Oh, well, that's the very sad story. You recall, of course, there was 239 passengers and crew on that aircraft that was flying from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing in China. For us to wrap up the program this morning, we'll take a look now at the weather prospects for major towns and cities for the rest of the day.
the northeastern flank of the country. Intermittent rains are expected over the central parts of the country, the high grounds of the southeast and the southeastern coast. In the afternoon, we expect localized thunderstorms over the northwestern flank, intermittent rains over the central states and along the southern coast. And for our daytime highs across the country, take a look at our weather map. And that's our forecast for the day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. And that's our program for today as well. From me and the rest of the GMN crew, we thank you for watching and it's goodbye from Abuja.
Well, Kingsley also says goodbye. See you tomorrow same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. But do have a lovely
Are watching NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng.